Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the April Policy Committee meeting. Excited to get started this morning. As one kind of housekeeping item, I unfortunately have to leave for a funeral this morning at 11 o'clock. We may finish all of our business by 11. We may decide to end at 11. It also is entirely fine with me if my colleagues continue. We'll still have a quorum. Either way, we'll end at 11:30. But let's go and do a round of introductions. We'll start with Rob and then move around the horseshoe.
Yes, hi, Rob Wilson, technician. And if you'd like to speak at the end of the meeting, please click the hand icon and we'll invite you by asking your name and association to the district.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Davis, the board's administrative assistant.
Cynthia Dolman, Office of General Counsel.
Michael Guston, treasurer.
Danielle Wagner, parent.
Vita Manuel, grandparent, Excel Cincinnati.
Dr. Smith, Deputy Superintendent. Manisha House, Director of Hawkins School.
Carrie Armbruster, board member.
Ben Lindy, board member.
Dr. Kareem Moffitt, board member.
Shauna Murphy, superintendent.
Dan Hoying, general counsel.
Stephanie Scott, assistant general counsel.
Anna Barellon, Community Partnership Project Specialist.
Sierra Badgett, assistant superintendent.
Jeremy Gullyhue, chief information officer.
Lynn Martin, Chair, Hughes High School, LSDMC.
Carol Gibbs, LSDMC Chair for Taft Elementary, and according to Dr. Moffitt, a troublemaker.
You too. Emily Bell asked me, Local 232.
Karen Nimbus, Cincinnati Federation of Teachers Field Representative.
Anybody we missed while going around the horseshoe? All right, welcome everyone. We often put very quick things right at the beginning, particularly if we have a request for an alcohol waiver. And I think we have someone here today from the Kilgore Annual Carnival. Ms. Frank, if you are here and want to share just maybe a minute or two about the event, certainly does not need to be long. And if they're not here, maybe we have an update from the administration. First name Libby, last name Frank.
Okay, there we
There
go.
you go, Libby. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you? This
Good,
is
thank
Libby
you.
Frank. I'm the parent of a sixth grader at Kilgore Elementary and a graduate of Walnut and a junior at Walnut. And I have been coming to the board since 2019 to ask for this waiver, and we've been very successful for the past few years. We had to take a hiatus there for a minute. This is third year back that we've asked for this waiver. It's a great way for us to make a little extra money for our teachers and our school over here on Herschel. And I've already received, of course, this is always pending your approval. I've already received our temporary license from the state of Ohio. We have police on site. The building remains closed. And we have fencing all around the perimeter with signs indicating where alcohol can stop as heading back into the neighborhood. We really appreciate your taking a look at this matter and doing your waiver for us. It's kind of free money on the table, and we like to try to take advantage of that as much as possible. So we appreciate a waiver again this year.
Thank you very much. Ms. Frank, any questions or comments or concerns from my colleagues?
No concerns, just questions. When is the event?
Oh, it's the weekend of May 9th and 10th.
Okay.
And also, this will be my last year doing it because we're graduating.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. There is actually a CPS employee named Stephanie Magrisso who works at Kilgore, and she is going to be taking over the event in the following years. She still has a second grader.
Good. Well, congratulations. That was a lot of questions.
If we're in okay shape, then we'll put this in the consent agenda with the policy committee's recommendation. Thanks again, Ms. Frank, for this year and for all the previous years. And best
you're very
wishes
welcome.
on what's next.
Thanks.
Great. You're welcome to stick around for the rest of our policy committee meeting. And if you go on with the rest of your day, that's also fine too. So we have a standard setup for our agendas here. We have a space at the beginning for continued discussions of items brought up at past meetings. Below that, you'll see where it says standing policy review cycle. One charge of this committee is over the course of 3 years to review each of the policies that CPS has, so that where we're always keeping those up to date. And then we have a final section, 2 final sections here where any board member can request that the committee take up any topic or any policy. And so we have a list of items we're going to try to get through June. And then we have time for hearing of the public at the end. I'll just say that as we go through the agenda, if you came here to speak on a particular item that's on the agenda, just raise your hand or let Rob know through Zoom, and we'll make sure we get your comments during that part of the meeting, and you don't have to wait until the end. So we'll continue with policy 9142, which is about local school decision-making committees and PTO engagement, which I believe is from Dr. Moffitt.
I'm sorry. Is that better, Rob? I got you. We brought this up the last meeting around potential changes that needed to be made because quite a few of our LSDMCs are not in compliance with what some of the board members think is compliance, and so it was shared that compliance simply meant submission of a roster, attendance at the district meeting, and then and I think there's one other compliant piece, but many of our LSDMCs that I've visited are not even in those areas. And so I think President Sellers expressed some concerns as well around just the existing policy and how we could potentially make this a little bit better. One of the areas was around the minimum of 12 members for as their composition. And it was expressed that if that is difficult for the schools to get the parents to engage, that was a comment that was shared, then perhaps those numbers could be adjusted. That's not my preference, but we had a small discussion around that as well. So I think this is really just a continuation of trying to ensure that we are actually engaging the community. I also think that we need to define what compliance looks like, because simply completing a roster and coming to one district meeting, to me, is not what the intention or the spirit of the policy was designed for, or my interpretation of it, yet I think we've gotten to that point. So it was really just to invite further discussion so that we could really engage the community, have robust LSDMCs that are effectively getting what they need, but able to advocate on behalf of their buildings with the complement that is representative of not only licensed members, employees that are non-CFT, students if desired, community representatives, and parent members. So this is just to continue that. I believe we received a list of LSDMCs that may or may not be that were listed as being in compliant, but probably are not.
So we, Dr. Moffitt, receive and understand the request for action and information. We just want to remind that measure about having a roster came through from what is our current strategic plan in terms of what was presented during the SACAL meetings. And so since then, Assistant Superintendent Badgett has convened a group to talk about just those things you raised. And so he's here today for that purpose, if it's okay. All right. Mr. Badgett.
Thank you, Superintendent Murphy. Rob, do you have a slide deck? Okay.
It might be easier to lift that one up. Yeah. Or just have her sit right here. Yeah, we can scoot down.
Thank you, Rob.
Well, how about we?
All right, so
We're going to keep it short.
All right, next slide, please, Rob. We'd like to just go over our current measures with some modifications based off the feedback that Dan Hoying gave us at the last policy meeting. So for measures for an active LSDMC, the schools have to submit, I think by September, it changes each year, but in late fall, middle fall, they have to submit their roster. And when they submit the roster, we look for, Anna and I, we look at all the LSTMC rosters for the whole district, and we review it to make sure that they have the complete composite. The LSTMC can have up to 12 members plus the lead agency director. With that being said, when the schools submit a roster that's incomplete, we send an email immediately to that school principal, and we copy their assistant superintendent saying your roster is not complete. You may need 1 or 2 community members or 1 or 2 parents, and if you need assistance, please let us know. So that's our first level when we get the roster. As you may know, that our goal is to get 12 members on every school's LSDMC. Sometimes that's not the case, but they do have the quorum. In our handbook, it says you minimum 8 members on the LSDMC for a quorum, so we make sure that that happens at all of our sites. But again, we are in communication with that building principal and the area assistant superintendent when they come in incomplete. Also, one thing that we're changing based off the feedback from the last policy is once we get our complete rosters for all the schools, we will post their dates and times for their LSDMC meetings on our district website under the LSDMC page. So everyone can see when they're having those meetings and where they are. Okay. And then the other piece for that is we complete a mid-year lead agency evaluation. So the schools have to complete that. So that's one measure. They also have to complete an end of the year lead agency evaluation, and they must attend 3 out of the 4, the members on the LSDMC could come to 3 of the 4 district lead meetings. So one person from each LSDMC attends 3 out of the 4 meetings. Next slide, Rob. One new measure that we're adding for next year, school-wide 26-27, is feedback from the LSDMC by June 1, and that will consist of summary of the LSDMC activities that they completed for that school year, confirms the meetings if they were held, and then they'll also be able to get feedback on the principal engagement with the LSDMC, and then any recommendations they would like us to know for their LSDMC site.
Is this time for a question? Okay, thank you so much. I think we still have work to do because the section, page 2, section, I guess, composition section, doesn't say up to, it says a minimum of 12 members. So part of when we talk about 8, and if we can't get 12 because that's a problem, then I think we need to look at the policy again because it's supposed to have at least 12 members in the components of 3 parent members who are not employed by the district, 3 licensed members from CFT, 3 employee representatives non-CFT, 2 but not more than 3 students if desired, I'm assuming if desired, and then 3 community representatives, 1 representative from the lead agency, and we also had a conversation around if that particular lead agency should be voting, how that happens. So I am so appreciative of this work. I also I visited a few LSDMCs that they didn't know what their one plan was. They didn't understand. They wanted clarification of that, and I directed them to their principal. But they had received a copy of the policy, and there were just a couple of areas that they were not active with regard to number 11 on role, scope of work, approve any proposed school budget. They had not done that. They know that they're in charge, well, their charge is also inclusive of hiring the principal and evaluating that. But with regard to the participation in the lead agency, they were not aware of that. So I think we need to either, if you're finding in practice that this is not feasible, we need to revamp this. But we need to follow it if it's going to be active. And so when I go to LSDMCs and they only have 1 parent rep or they don't have any parent reps, it's concerning because they're not technically in compliance with the policy. So we talked last time about adjusting the numbers down, and I want to say President Sellers even suggested like that was not advised. I don't advise it, but we need to look at this and go through the areas where this is feasible for the communities to actually do. I would like to think we can get 3 parents. And it says here that the parents are supposed to be picked by their PTOs, which also means, do they have active PTOs? A PTO, you know, to me, this is more systemic than it is just checkbox item. And I don't think that we are truly in compliance of it. So when we say 98% active LSDMCs, it's misrepresentative of what active is, and it's misrepresentative of the engagement of that particular community. We've got some great LSDMCs that are doing great work, even at Taft Elementary, where trouble is down there. But, so it's not representative of the school or the neighborhood. I think it's about understanding and true awareness of what is expected. So that was what I wanted to say.
Let me go to board members first and then see if other members of our group today have comments. Board member Armbruster.
I just wanted to say thank you for this annual feedback piece. That's what I was really focused in on. I think all of it is very important, but this was my specific request, and I think it looks great. I want to make sure it's clear that like this would be feedback led by the chair and not the principal. So I assume that's implicit, but I want it to be explicit because it is describing principal engagement. So yeah, but other than that, I think it looks great. I would love to hear from the LSDMC people in the room on what their thoughts are of this whole thing, and then yeah.
We'll definitely do that. I'll just share a couple comments, and then I know we have folks here who came to speak on this policy. Kareem mentioned the one of the 2 things I wanted to mention, and so I won't repeat that, but I just agree. Either it's 12 or it's not 12. We should just be consistent. Other thing was, in the very last section, I think this is great. In the last page, there's a new, I'm not on the slides, I'm just in the red line that we have here from council. There's a last section on monitoring. I'm so glad this is added. It says, given the important role of the LSDMCs in governing schools, the Board of Education shall request on at least an annual basis a report from the superintendent on the implementation of this policy. My request is just to change one word in this paragraph from request to receive, just so that like the board shall receive on an annual basis rather than shall request on an annual basis. Because we forget things. I forget things. I'll just speak for myself. And if it runs as received, then it can become part of a COWS type schedule. Is there any reason that's not a good idea? No? Great. Okay, if we've gotten comments from board members, we'll go to Julie, and then anybody else who came today to speak on the LSDMC policy, we'll do that too.
You want to go first? Okay. One of the things that I hear from schools about their LSDMC is they'll say, oh, well, we don't have any community like partners. And so that community doesn't need to be in their own neighborhood. It can be within that area. Like, so if they have a partner and it's someone from an agency that is in the next neighborhood over, it could still be a community partner. It doesn't have to be exactly in that neighborhood, because some of our neighborhoods are very isolated and they say they don't have enough people within that small neighborhood. And the other thing is that I don't think that schools are always, there needs to be a sign off on for those community members. If they have someone from their community council, there needs to be a sign off that their community council selected that person, which that's not happening. And so sometimes then they just scramble and bring people together who may or may not have been in the school for the last 5 years. So I think that there needs to be more oversight from how those members are put on LSDMC so that it is more authentic.
Okay, we'll go to Carolyn just in 1 second, but Julie, to your point, like I hear you saying that community representatives can be from nearby, but not necessarily the same.
I don't believe that they have to be directly from that neighborhood, but a community is within that area.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is I think this sounds like a fair point. The language on the second page of the policy, item 5, it currently reads within the school's attendance boundaries.
Yeah, and that doesn't always happen.
So I think we could change it, but
Yeah.
just in the spirit of like, is it 12 or is it not 12? Like whatever it is, we should be really clear about it, and then get it in writing, and then make sure it happens. And so, like, is the request that it be broader than that?
I think that the request is within the community that serves that school. Because, so for example, Ethel M. Taylor is in a very isolated neighborhood, and there aren't a whole lot of community organizations for them to pull from. But there are some, maybe in North Fairmount, some areas within that bound, close by.
Would it, I'm just
Central, Spring Grove Avenue, there's some factories and things. And so I know we always had a partner we had to go to like Spring Grove Avenue, which was outside of our boundary line, but it was still close proximity to our school.
It's more about who's active in the
Yes.
school. One of our community partners is actually a church that's in Kenwood.
Yeah.
But they're in the building every single day. They're tutoring, they set up our library, they run our pantry. So there's members of that church in the school, so they are a community member.
That's nice. It makes me think we could ask maybe council's office to, between now and next time, I don't know how to write this, but is it possible to take a swing at something that is capacious enough that for a group of volunteers that have really integrated themselves, or for a nearby business, but that is outside the attendance boundaries, we could write something like that?
I just want to add, it says 3 community representatives. So it's very clear that it's not in replacement of your neighborhood community council, it's in addition to. So if we have 52 neighborhoods and we have community councils, we should be having someone from that neighborhood, even like Millville or Fairmount has a community council. In addition to that, the other 2 to be selected. So it's not in replacement of, it should be in addition to.
And some community councils don't give a rat's butt.
Well, they don't, but we have to at least ask. And I think to be in compliance with the policy, we need to represent that we asked and they refused. But there are some community councils like College Hill, with regard to Pleasant Hill, was never asked. And so that's what I'm looking for. If we can't follow as it's written, it seems broad enough to be able to encompass everybody. It's not only your neighborhood community, it's your neighborhood community plus the church that's in Kenwood plus another one. But it should be documented that we've tried them, and it's not happening.
Well, I'm
currently.
representing my community, but I'm sure there are others that don't.
Yeah,
But you're trouble, so we know you're representing your community.
I want to see if there are other voices who came here today to talk about this issue. I think that it's worth revisiting the language, because I do think there's language in there now that, as you read it, would preclude some of the ideas that are on the table. And I think some of the ideas on the table are good ideas.
I actually wanted to address parent involvement. I was just
go ahead.
responding to Julie. I think the district itself needs to address parent involvement. And Julie, I love you, but in the bargaining unit, the teachers don't have to work outside of their time zone, their time working. And so it makes it difficult for parents who are working and teachers who don't. It's very difficult to put everybody together, and I think that's a big problem. We have parents that show up that are not necessarily on the LSDMC, but they're there because they can. But we meet right after school. Another LSDMC that I'm aware of meets virtually in the evening, and so the teachers are at home and they're willing to do that. But if they're not willing to do that, then it's really tough to get parents involved.
Great point. It's a great point. Yes.
So thank you. I saw a green light. So it is a challenge, and again, I'm a community rep. I'm the community council rep, also serving as chair, and so I don't have personal contacts with parents in the school, and so we have to rely on the people who are in the school, the teachers and the faculty and the principal, and we have not been able to get parents involved. in a big way.
And that's parent involvement across the board. It's not just LSTMC.
Right.
And I think the district needs to work on that.
Can I add something to it, just as a parent? I attend LSMDCs currently at my daughter's school, and I'm not on the LSMDC, right? And I was just sitting here talking like there's no clear, it's not a clear list or the clear qualifications on how I can be involved with the LSMDC. Well, let me take that back. For me, I understand now because I'm there, I'm asking. But for other parents, to your point, they just don't know. And if they have to get nominated by the PTO, then that builds that gap in between, right? And so I wonder, is it like, can you put that under on the website, like the qualifications of how to, you know what I mean? Like, do you need to X, Y, Z, whatever that is for that specific school? Because I don't want to say how it is at our school, but I think the point is, if you get that information out there, then parents are able to decide and being able to schedule that time in.
You're saying the PTO?
No, the understand how to be a part of the LSMDC and the PTO, and that feels like it's conflicting too as well. Like, because this right here, no one's looking at the policy, right? And so when we look, like, even in the beginning of the year, these are the programs that's out here, the PTA, the PTO. For my school, we have 2 other, like, parent groups, right? Those should be a list already there for you to be able to see and determine what you want to be a part of at the beginning of the school year. So it makes it more like, okay, the time commitment, I know that I already want to put in the beginning of the year for my child, because parents do. They do want to be involved in things. And so I think it should just be a clear roadmap, how you can join, be a part. And then the same thing for community vendors or, supporters of the school. I just want to put that in there.
Thank you very much. Other comments on LSDMC? Julie?
I think that's a really good idea that the other organizations within the school, because I know, my mic's on. They have, for them to know that there's an LSDMC, who's on the LSDMC, and what is the sunset of their term. Because they have a multi-year term, and sometimes people aren't aware of when is the end of the term, so that even people are aware of that.
Board Member Moffett, followed by Superintendent.
Well, I wanted the superintendent to go first. Go ahead.
Well, I might go ahead. I was only going to say that we receive all this feedback and we appreciate it. And you're making me think of a few things, especially Ms. Boyd. There is no kind of prerequisite for a parent to participate. It just comes from the parent organization. So we need to highlight that and emphasize that. And when you were talking, it made me immediately think about our handbook. And I think that there are some components of the handbook around LSTMCs that we can pull out, and maybe we'll ask for the parents to help us what works better in terms of communicating how to become involved. My opinion is I don't think our LSTMC should have fewer than 12. I think that we continue to work hard. Probably what's most important to me is that there's an even opportunity for voice for each of the constituent groups that are a part of this. So we'll keep working.
Great. Yes, Carrie.
As someone that has been asking for this change since the first meeting we had, I would like to propose that we push forward with the wonderful changes that have been made, because I think they're valuable, and I think they're valuable immediately. I don't recommend we hold off to consider changing things to fit the reality. I think we fit the reality to what we desire, which is the 12, right? So we continue striving towards that with these deep conversations about how we can improve engagement. These are all good, but I would like to propose to my colleagues that we push forward these changes that were made to the full board, because I think that they have immediate value to improving the system.
I have a thought, but do you want to go first?
Sure. I don't think it's ready. I think it's definitely a work in progress. I'd love to see the changes from the administration around what we've suggested here, and the handbook, and give you all an opportunity to take the feedback that you've heard, revise the policy, and then come back and it could be next month. But I do think that there is still some clarification. I also wanted, we had a small discussion around the lead agency representative and what that role was, and voting versus representation. Can you all clarify what is working, what's best practices? It's not a judgment, it's an inquiry from me, because it says one representative from the school's lead agency, partner in education or business, or university liaison, as long as that representative recuses themselves. But we also had a situation where we had the lead agency representative, well, the partner in education, my apology, want to be the chair. So we have scenarios that I think have presented themselves that we need to address in this policy based off of the experiences that you all are finding now that were not representative before. We also, I think, General Counsel Hoyne, we added like the decision for the chair would be by somebody in the administration. If that's going to be what the procedure is moving forward, that needs to be in this policy. So I think we can propose to the full board that we are working on these changes and ask them for their input, but I don't think it's ready for a final, this is it, stamp vote, because I've heard some suggestions here that are not here. So I would love for the administration to be able to incorporate what we've heard and then make those revisions, and then we can look at it again.
I will share from my perspective, and we'll go to the superintendent too. I would be, to Carrie's point, I'd be happy to vote on this today if we could get language that addresses the attendance zone issue, because I do think that would exclude some things that are currently happening, and I see a good argument to expand that. That maybe that takes a minute. The other thing is, and I've said this at a couple of different policy committees, I only became chair of this committee when Mr. Morosky stepped down. And one of the things that I've tried to do since then is only vote out of policy things that have the unanimous support of the full committee. So like if we're split, like my preference would be we wait until we can get everybody on board. But I think your point is valid, that like we could spend the entire year talking about this and nothing changes. So can we all commit to, like, at the next policy committee meeting in May, we're going to vote out of this committee a recommended set of changes? We hope.
I can definitely do that. I don't think it's ready right now, and I don't intend to spend a whole year talking about it. So
Great.
I do think that it is near ready, but we've heard way too much conversation and great input today to not have that included in the policy moving forward. So that is my recommendation, that we move it to May with the added changes from the administration, what you're seeing, what you're proposing, and then we vote on that, or we move that to the full board for discussion.
We're going to do Carrie and then superintendent and then Carol.
I just want to clarify, I was not intending to ignore the feedback today. I think the feedback today is about the implementation of the policy rather than the policy itself. I was not trying to ignore all the wonderful feedback that we received today. That was not ever my intention.
I don't think anybody took it that way. I was just going to share, we will begin working on all of these pieces and appreciate the feedback. I did just want to comment and just get clarity from the committee. My understanding over the years in regards to the chair has been the only exception is it can't be a staff member. If that looks or feels different now, we're happy to move forward on that too. But in the past, for chair, my understanding is you just simply could not be a member of the faculty or staff.
It says community member or.
Yes.
It's always been a parent or a community member.
With respect for lead agency, the only thing, my understanding that we emphasized, at least in the past, is yes, and I think Dr. Moffitt mentioned this, they remove themselves for any vote that impacts that lead agency, including the selection of the resource coordinator, which is who brings the candidates for resource coordination. And I will say this, and people may have a different view. Pardon me, this language on partner in education, I think at one time, 25 years ago, was a thing. Like lead agency for us is a thing. Like P&G used to be a formal partner in education. I just wonder if that language should be removed because to me, it targets and points to a specific season.
Makes sense to me.
Well, at Pleasant Hill, the partner in education was the Holocaust Center, I think. So unless I'm
Well,
just
think-
saying that wrong.
I think it's just a partner. I'm saying, I think at one time in our world, in our district, we had a thing, who's old enough to remember?
I remember
Partner in
that.
education. And so I think it's like we say lead agency today. That's what I remember.
Well, I guess I'm just a little confused. It says that the representative could be the lead agency partner in education or business or university liaison. I think it's broad enough to encompass a wide variety of things. I would hesitate to take it out if we have people who would fall on, or organizations that would potentially fall underneath that. And the Holocaust would be a question to me of, would they fall under? They're not the lead agency, but would they fall under a partner in
Consider
education?
them a partner for sure, but I'm saying is like partner in education was a thing like NAACP or like HBCU. Do you see what I'm saying? So keep partner, but maybe it doesn't say partner in education.
Okay. Yeah.
I said it was a term of art.
It was, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you maybe partnering agency, is that better for you? I don't think people that were here, if they weren't here 25 years ago, they may not know that, but if the word needs to be different, then whatever you would call them, I think could be applicable. But then we also need to talk about, can they be the chair because they are currently the chair at Pleasant Hill, and so that was a question, that's part of why this came up, that partnering agency was
So the
voted as the
partner-
chair.
So we're saying a partner, whatever, cannot be a chair, only a parent or community member. That's what we're saying.
So,
Because we
That's
have
what
a
it's
lot of,
always been,
you know, for example, I happen to know at Woodward, the chair is from Children's Hospital.
Okay.
I happen to know that the grad has someone, I don't know who.
Here's what I'm going to
to
propose. I think let's take one last, literally 60 seconds for a total of any following comments. We have about 9 other things that we want to get to today before 11.
Sure.
And so last 60 seconds, we're already going to come back next month. You're all invited. We'll be here. We can keep this going, but 60 more seconds today. Yes. You're good? Others?
I just want to say, as the person who kind of brought this up, because it was also shared with me by President Sellers, the parent member is not supposed to be a staff member. And that is happening. So again, we have some work to do. That's the whole point of this, is that when we talk about compliance, then you're saying by the definition of compliance that everything fits and everything is actually how it's supposed to be, and it's not. And it's not a dig, but it's an acknowledgement that we have work to do, and we need to, when we say 98%, we're ready, we're active, we're compliant, that is not the case, and I want us to get there. So that's what my whole intention of this is I visited LSDMCs. I know we have a partnering agency who is the chair, and that's kind of a conflict. So I want us to get where we have to go. I also want to hear your feedback incorporated with this into this policy, and I'm looking forward to the conversation for next month.
Great. So, yes, please.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Again, we'll be here next month talking about the LSDMC policy, and you're all invited. So moving on to the draft.
The changes you want, I want to try to summarize. I'm
Please.
sorry, just. So the one-
And let me back off the 60-second thing. I think
Yeah,
I would
I'm
rather
sorry.
do this right than
I
create
just want to
confusion.
make sure we're
So
bringing back what you are asking.
take your time.
So the changes that I heard is work on paragraph 5 of the composition selection of members, which relates to maybe not just the attendance boundary, but the school community, certainly. I've got a note to, in the monitoring section, to change shall request, the board shall request to the board shall receive. Is there others changes that the committee is expecting us to?
Number 6, the superintendent mentioned
Oh,
take
yeah, I
out
got
partner
that.
in education, but partnering agency.
Got that as well, sorry.
That's all I have.
That's all
Okay.
I have right here.
Okay.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you. And I
Sorry.
appreciate.
In the chair language.
And the chair language to take a look at that.
Yes.
Got it,
I think we
things.
talked last time about just changing that to like put in parentheses, like which categories those two things
We can do
encompass.
that.
That was what we discussed last time. I think that would be very clear for everyone. to just say the chair comes from category, I forget the numbers.
Yeah, I got it.
Dan, thank you
No,
for the
thank you.
question and for the clarity, and I think this is great. We have a next item here, which is on a draft general counsel policy. We had a robust discussion about this last time, and what was going to happen between last meeting and this meeting was that counsel's office and Kareem were going to get together and take a first swing at something. I think they have an update on that they want to share.
We do. We have, we've drafted something, but did not have an opportunity to meet in person. I do have two questions around it. So I'm asking if we can just table this to May so that myself and the general counsel's office can meet in person, hash this out, and then we will present something to you in May around it.
You know, he was going to say, why is it taking this long?
Because we didn't have an opportunity to meet in person.
It's great. I don't mind. I would rather do it right than do it fast and do it wrong. So I'm not in a rush. I just wanted, Eve has been bringing this up for a minute.
Yeah.
And so if you're watching or going to ask about it later, I think people are doing taking it seriously, trying to put something together that is good and trying not to rush it. And it is top of mind for everybody.
It is. And it was, I also wanted to discuss it. So it's not because I don't want to discuss it. It's because we really did not have an opportunity to meet. We just got it this week and I have not had the opportunity. So we will present something in May.
There was a spring break in there, and I, again, really appreciate everybody who's working on it. Did anybody come today to talk about general counsel policy? Anybody who's interested? No, it's no problem. No problem. No problem. Okay, hearing nothing, and Rob, nobody online who wants to talk about general counsel. Okay, so we're going to keep moving to policy 5201, which is truancy, and we'll start by hearing from the administration.
Actually, Naomi Medeiros is here to touch on the truancy policy. The PBIS department is the one who kind of took the lead on this. I believe Minister House had to leave, so Naomi's filling in.
So I don't know, Naomi Medeiros, I'm the lead school social worker for the district. So House Bill 96, and Mr. Hoyne can share, some of the legal genre with that, but House Bill 96 is a budget bill. It came out and it made changes to several different areas, but one of those was truancy in attendance and how districts in Ohio should address those. And so what we did, the expectation is that all districts in Ohio have an updated policy by August 1st. And so since the school social workers oversee the attendance and we have an internal policy and procedures committee, we went ahead and took a stab at it, went over it with Mr. Hoyne and Ms. Scott, and here we are to get, review and feedback.
Nothing you did.
Thank you. So however you guys want to.
So mostly what you see in the policy that you have there, where you see a lot of the language stricken, is because basically it was really updating the policy to bring it in compliance with that House bill. Some of the, I think it's like the tiered structure that we have there, and then also even on the front, some of the specific definitions of truancy and so on and so forth. But so it's really, if you have questions, but it really is just bringing it into compliant, what was necessary, so it would fit within House Bill 96. So.
Yeah, one of the major things that House Bill 96 wanted districts to do with their policy is have a definition for chronic absenteeism specifically and be preventative in nature. It took away requirements. Well, it took away excessive absence as a definition. It took away requirements to have an absence intervention team, an absence intervention plan, but then it said put some preventative measures in place, some tiered preventative measures in place before, a student gets to that point. We as a district, as a department, we're saying we're still gonna have a team, we're still gonna have a plan. We are gonna do tiered, preventative measures. And then if we need to, we will file, an unofficial charge with juvenile court.
Thank you very much. Questions from the administration? Yeah, Carrie.
Being new and not having a lot of history with this, can you just, what is the impact to a student who has a history with truancy or chronically absenteeism? What, as far as the difference in how that student's case would be handled by the district between the previous and current? or proposed?
So I would love to say that we were ahead of the game. So with our MTSS process, we were already going to address truancy in the building at that tier 1 level. So we were ahead of it. So this is really just more support, earlier intervention. Yeah, so it's a benefit to all
Awesome.
students.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kareem.
I had just a question. First of all, thank you all for all the work that you all are doing. I think this is tough because absenteeism is a problem across the nation, not just in Cincinnati Public. For the public, I wanted you to, if possible, state what our definition of absenteeism is. And is it possible, is our definition in alignment with other large urban districts with the similar population? And is it in alignment with what's going on across the nation? And then the other thing I wanted to know is we talked about on the second page, parent guardian notice of chronic absenteeism, and it says in writing. And so, but I think we've had a conversation where it was also that you all use robocalls, you all use text messages, like you use a multitude of things. And we in that discussion, we talked about, can we say in writing that is inclusive of, I think, like different modes of,
Yes.
So that was the only thing that I wanted to change, is that we talked about what in writing means, but it also was inclusive of other things, not just a letter. And so I wanted that to kind of be explicit here.
Okay.
So that the public and the parents also knew that you could be getting text messages, you could be getting robocalls. You all, I want to say there are times where you visit. So I don't know, but I think that needs to be explained. So back to my first part, if you wouldn't mind just saying publicly what our definition of absenteeism is. What does it mean when a student is considered chronically absent? Parents don't know that it's minutes, not days, and how quickly that can accumulate if you have a child that's sickly, or even a female that has, monthly issues. That adds up very, very quickly.
Correct. So as a district, we follow the state's definition, right, of absenteeism. We do have in our attendance policy what is considered excused absences and unexcused absences. So chronic absenteeism is missing 10% or more of school for any reason, excused or unexcused. And that's kind of the approach that the state wanted to take. It doesn't matter the reason, right, that a student is missing school, it still impacts their education when they're not there. And so, the goal is to address all absenteeism. And so the state has changed the way we calculate absenteeism. It does go by the minute. So if a student is tardy, if a student leaves early, all of those minutes are included in that 10%. And so we're being preventative and we're addressing those issues. We know that a lot of students have medical issues, like there are legit reasons why a student misses school. And so then as a social worker, you're intervening and you're saying, how can we help? What are some alternative measures we can take to make sure that your child is not falling behind academically?
Go ahead.
The one, right.
So how exactly is like the school actually making sure that the support is there? Because like for me, I try to call on for the support for my child, but I had to go outside children. So of course it takes as far as my child coming in late, having to leave early, or maybe just missing that day. But it's like, we don't have the support available, or we have to wait, and then it'd be months later on down the road for that support to be available. So exactly like where is it as far as like the accountability being held as far, and then, being placed as far as on a parent, like, well, they missing this and they're missing that. And, where is it as far as like the barrier between the school and the family or for the student?
So the support is individualized, right? And so we notice that the student is missing school when we reach out to the parent and we're having a collaborative conversation about what barriers you have. Now, depending on what the barrier is, if it's transportation, that's going to be a hard one, right? But depending on what your individualized barriers are, we're looking at the resources. We have resources out here in the community. We have school partners, right? We have resource coordinators in the building. So as a collective, if there's something going on academically We're talking to the teachers as a team. If there's something going on with mental health, we have mental health partners in the building. So collectively, we're trying to address whatever the barrier is. Now, there are limited resources, so it really just depends on what that individualized barrier, family is dealing with.
Okay.
But it really is just a team effort of saying, what can we do to tailor, the educational piece for this particular student and family?
Right, because that's what I'm thinking as far as like the stress for a parent, as far as like, when you got that mindset, like, well, do I take them to this appointment or do I just send you to school?
Right.
I know you need this assistance, you need this help, but at the same time, I don't want to get myself in trouble because I have to take care of what the needs for you.
Yeah, so we actually have had meetings where we have, like say if you're at Children's Hospital, we're talking to that team. Are there other times when this, student can be seen? Can the student come after school? So as a collective, we're supporting you in that too. We're advocating in that realm as well.
Okay.
Thank you for the question. Thank you for the response. Other community members or administrators who would like to speak to truancy? Mr. Troing?
Yeah, I just wanted to say two things. One is about 10 years ago, Ohio passed House Bill 410, which it decriminalized truancy, but really all it did is take it from the courts and put it in the schools. For the last 10 years, it has felt like a very administrative process. Count days, hold a meeting, refer. It's been very administrative. This is a good thing. This is really much more supportive model. Tiered supports using the resources that the school has. This is a really good thing. The second thing I'd say is that I really wanted to thank Naomi, Manisha House, Stephanie. Lots of times when the law changes, we get a department that just says, hey, the law changed, what do we have to do? They drafted the policy, they engaged stakeholders, they've talked to the juvenile court, they've done a terrific job with this, and really wanted to thank that group, so. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Brad?
I just wanted to say that this speaks to the importance of our school social workers, that all of our schools need access to, not only just attendance social workers, but are also social workers that do a lot of SEL work. And so, as we look towards a budget, we need to make sure that we are protecting those resources that help. I also just want to mention that I have sent research to the chair of this committee because there is a lot of research around chronic absenteeism, and we ought to be paying attention to what the research says to help make sure that our students are in attendance.
I second
Thank
that.
you. Please.
I want to say Dr. Moffitt had a second question. So it was definition and.
Do we align with the big urbans like
Yes.
Columbus? Is there similar to, and then the state, not the state, the nation? Because it's a problem nationally, and I know you all are
Absolutely.
saying it. Does our definition, because we had to create our own, does that align with everyone else?
So when you say so the definition is universal. What we consider excused and unexcused may differ.
Okay. I gotcha. I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Is there a situation where a parent can't get in any other time? They may have, their son or daughter may have a medical issue that is only during the day. I don't know. Is that considered excused?
It's excused, but it still counts towards chronic absenteeism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So even if you have, I just want parents to know, even if you have excused absences, it still counts towards your
chronic absenteeism. And we must remember chronic absenteeism is different than truancy, which is unexcused hours. That is where you get into having to file with juvenile court. Otherwise, we're just trying to meet and say, how can we help? Because ultimately, this is negatively impacting the students' academics.
Got it.
I think we will have to say that over and over and over and over and over and over
defined
and
in
over
the
again.
policy
Yeah.
on the first page. I mean, there's a definition for chronically absent and a definition for habitual truancy, so people can start to understand the difference in that. But the whole point is also we're going to intervene no matter which category, but there's a different reasons and different follow-ups depending on
Yeah.
where that falls. So.
Okay, great. Rob, we have somebody online?
A comment they wanted us to share.
Yeah, please.
On truancy, my child missed several days and was an excellent student. I received no notification. How can we improve on this important communications?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's just a continuous, communication of expectations that we have within our district and of our staff. So you should have received notification for chronic absenteeism. And so if there is ever a reason, a concern, you can definitely always contact, the truancy hotline, or even I get direct calls as well. So I meet and talk with a lot of parents. So yeah, if there's ever a concern, of course, I'm going to say, talk to your school social worker first, but if it needs to be elevated, that's fine.
So let's thank you. And I think if that individual parent would like a particular response for their situation from the administration, could you just get their contact information to the superintendent, and then we can make sure that gets to the right folks. Great. Last comment on truancy, and then we're going to keep going.
Members of the community. This should be a city conversation. It should be talked about on Sunday in church services about the importance of students being in school. And so I would just like to see us work together.
Come on, sit down, have a seat.
So we'll okay, thank you. And I think just on clarity for next steps, I'm not hearing requests for changes from committee members. It does sound like this has been a lot of really important and good work from the administration in collaboration with many others, which makes me think that this is a recommendation from our committee for approval by the full board, but that it go on the agenda, not on the consent agenda, but as a standalone piece. I wanted to just check, is that consistent with what Carrie would like, what Kareem would like?
I would like that. I think as many opportunities as we have to have you all clarify publicly what absenteeism is, truancy is, we should definitely do that. I would welcome the discussion piece, just even if it's just defining the definitions publicly. I also would to Kendra's point, encourage that some sort of video be done that we can put on the website, because I do think this is an awareness issue. People do not know, and we need to have it on the front page of the website with a link. Like, did you know, absenteeism is based off of hours, not minutes. Minutes, not hours. Just that will generate some clicks. We need to promote that as much as we can. So yes, to the answer.
Okay, so we're going to keep on moving to our next item, which is policy 5421 and grading. And I'll just share with the group, when I saw the draft agenda that had this on it, I had a question for Dan and Phyllis, and I was like, hey, I thought we resolved this at the last committee meeting. Were there other requests from board members to take a look at this again or modify it? And they said, no, that's not it. It's just that the administration has done all the next steps that we talked about, and they wanted to come and share what the output had been from that committee and that engagement. That's my understanding of what we're talking about this morning. I just wanted to see if I missed something or if that's accurate.
That's accurate.
Okay, then we're going to hand it over to the administration.
And as you may be aware, Dr. Smith convened a committee to do a deep dive into your request for this policy. So she did agree to come to the meeting today.
All right, good morning, everyone. Jeremy, your mic on too?
It is now.
Teamwork makes the dream work. So we met twice. We met on March 18th and March 30th. We had parents, we had principals, we had teachers, we had the union, and we came up with our language, which you will see. The committee desired to add a few things to make sure parents understood the purpose. It will have where the level the child is on the iReady benchmark. For more details, we want them to reach out to their school. They will get the colored iReady print attached to the report card. If you go on, can you go up, Rob, so they can see the language? Right there, there's the language. I had Jeremy turn his mic on because he's going to talk about the report card, how it would look. We are creating talking points that will be given to the principals. So while we're having on our moving on ceremonies, they can give these out to the parents. We are creating videos with a parent and a teacher explaining what the iReady is and all the components of it, and we will have it in multiple languages. So we met, we had some very vigorous conversations about it, and we feel like we came with what we needed to do.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Comments, questions from board members?
I will say I had the opportunity, I'm sorry, I just put a mint in my mouth. I had the opportunity to attend the meetings and hear from and learn from the parents that were there, the administration, and the union representation. I am asking, based off of the feedback that I attended, if we could continue those committee meetings. What I found is that rather than say a formalized pilot, the fourth quarter process could be the pilot. And then the committee could meet again to revise and make any changes that they found would be helpful. I did propose that, and everybody seemed like it was okay to say it publicly that maybe they can come back and revamp any findings that they did find. And then the other thing that seemed very applicable was that this really ties into other policies as well. Social promotion was discussed, instructional curriculum was discussed. So I do think that there's probably, that there definitely is space to look at as they review, as they meet to review and revamp some other policies that are also impacted by this particular policy. And the last thing I want to ask is, I want to ask the chair, Lindy, because we had a very lengthy discussion around iReady and other things to use. And so can you share a little bit, just for my benefit, how did we get to, it says optional in here, but was there another spirit that could be used other than iReady? Was there another assessment that you all found that could be used in place of iReady? Because it doesn't have to be iReady, but we don't have anything else. So we land on something that we don't have any other option to use. So I'm wondering, when you all did your research in coming up with the policy, was the spirit that it just be information, which is what I interpreted as, or was it specific to iReady?
No, it's great. I'm just realizing, again, I'm the only recurring member of this committee, so I wish that Kendra were here. I wish that Mary were here. Yeah, we had a great presentation from Jeremy and from Amanda, and they laid out at least three, I think, different ways of, like, what the draft language in the policy had said, and then was ultimately adopted, was we just want the information to go home to families. But how the administration uses the data that it has to get that information could be done in lots of different ways. And before we recommended that the board pass the policy, we wanted to know, is there even a way to do this? And so Jeremy and Amanda came back and shared three different versions. I think, was it three?
In various forms, yeah.
And I think what I remember taking away from this was there's just a real trade-off between you can cover more grade levels, you can cover more subjects, you can address different issues that come up with data, but the more things you try to address, the more complicated it becomes, and then the harder it becomes for somebody to understand what it is. And so I think I made this point in one of those meetings that I think from a personal perspective, there's power in simplicity, and also that this feels like an administrative realm to get into the trade-offs and the pros and the cons. There's nothing in the language of the policy as written that requires this to be iReady in the future. So like, if what happens is iReady is what the administration uses this spring, and then there's a different idea for how to do it in the future, there's no reason that couldn't happen.
Okay.
I happen to think iReady is very helpful and very clear. It just doesn't cover all the grade levels that you would want it to, but I also don't want to advocate we do more testing than we're already doing. So like this seemed like the equilibrium point across a bunch of different things that we care about.
Sure.
Does that answer the question?
It does, and I think that's also one of the reasons why I suggested that we continue the committee, if possible, with Dr. Smith and the parents that were already engaged and the staff that was already engaged in the union, so that if they find that after they do this for the fourth quarter, there are improvements that need to be made, we had the space and the people already in place to do it.
I think that's great.
And so that was the only other thing I wanted to add.
Carrie?
We did talk, oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
please go.
we talked about continuing the meetings, but we also talked about having a QR code with a survey so that once we surveyed the parents in the fourth quarter, that we would come back and discuss anything that needed to be an option that needed to be changed, or if something just didn't work and parents felt like this didn't help them. So we do have Jeremy's team is working on that piece of it.
I would just say thank you, because this work was done at the request of the group, but I very specifically asked that we go and look deeper into this, and you did. And I appreciate all the people that went and did that work and took the time. And so thank you. I requested it, you did it, and you came back with a recommendation, and I accept that recommendation, and I appreciate all that work that went into making it. So, and then I would just say, I want to encourage the district to keep the continuous improvement mindset. We don't have to call something a pilot so that we feel like we can change it. So, this is great. We're going to start here, and we should keep the committee going. We should continue to receive feedback, and we should be able to change if we feel that we need to change, and we don't have to go into something and launch it and then never touch it again. So just keeping an open mind to continuous improvement in any program that we have.
Thank you. For my part, I think this looks good. It looks consistent with what the policy says. I love the idea of a survey. I don't think the survey is in the policy, and nor need it be, but this is consistent with what's here. I think it's a great idea. I think it says reading twice, and it doesn't say math. So I think I would just say let's communicate reading, but once is enough, and then let's add math to it. Other than that, I think it looks good.
That's what you get when you make a mock-up too fast.
No, listen, appreciate all the help. Are there folks who came today to speak on this particular topic? Yeah, Karen.
I just have a question because I.
Oh.
That's all right. Thank you. Just for my benefit, because I attend most of the policy committee meetings, and I think I missed what the other two options were besides the discussion I read. I wonder if the committee could clarify for me.
Green light.
I apologize. Okay, I've got the
We're
mic,
making
I've
Rob
got the
work
green
today.
light. Thank you. For my benefit, because I've attended the policy committee meetings, and I think I missed the discussion of the other two options besides iReady that were discussed as things, as metrics, possibilities that could be included on the report card. So I wonder if, just for my benefit, if you could refresh our recollection.
Defer to Jeremy here.
And so, if you want me to do just a quick recap. So it came down to basically 3 levels along a spectrum is what we were presenting or what we talked about. In that spectrum, we started at basically looking at the least complex for understanding to the most complex. The first layer that we talked about was something as simple as adding a drop-down box that could be indicated by a teacher or a single data point that just would be that one point of reference. Like a teacher could click on the drop-down that I think they're at, the grading level, whatever. So that would be the simplest layer. The middle was using a assessment like iReady, which already has the normed and criterion reference to be able to provide that information to us. And the third was using multiple data points from multiple assessments. So trying to combine like the Acadian screener, the MAP, NWA, Lexile, and percentile scores with the iReady for all of those various things, along with any interventional review, like adding multiple data steps to try and then create a custom something for CPS that we felt would represent one word, or one version of on grade level, off grade level, by how much. That was kind of the spectrum we talked across. Does that help?
Thank you,
That
Karen.
helps, thanks.
We had a question over here, and then I'm going to go in the back, and then I'm going to go over here.
So mine is not necessarily a question. I am really I'm happy about what we decided in the committee. I also want to give a special shout out to Dr. Smith because she's also reached out to do a video explaining how iReady works and how you're able to read this. Now, I would prefer to still have above reading level, on reading level, or below reading level because it's clear, but having this video to understand early K in reading K or reading math in early math, excuse me, I just find that to be is very beneficial for parents to know exactly where their child is. So this is a clear indication exactly where your child is during that quarter, excuse me, and then they can go into this video and get the explanation that's needed. I understand like the difference of the test, but this right now is so simplified. So I didn't have a question. I just wanted to say that, and great work on all the committee and the challenges too as well that we experience.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that the opportunity to come together as stakeholders was powerful for those of you that were there. They were great conversations, and I would just like that those kind of conversations happen before we write up a policy, because in those conversations, we did come up with ideas like utilizing a cadence, which actually is an assessment that determines whether or not a child is put on a reading improvement and monitoring plan, or at putting a reference to say that please look at attached, because that a lot of things came out of our conversation about making sure that report cards are going home to parents in the first place, making sure that on there, the report from iReady is actually going home to parents to give not just a at or below, because Dr. Smith shared that her grandson's report said at level, but in the report, there were plenty of things he could be working on that, you know, the parents needed to know about. When we came up with all these alternative suggestions, though, we ran into the barrier that, oh, but this does not go with what the policy says. And so I would just ask that going forward, we start having these stakeholder conversations before the board puts policies in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Brad.
I just wanted to say.
Oh, I was sorry.
Oh,
I had seen Brad's hand,
Oh,
and then I promise either order. I'd like to do both.
You go first.
So I just wanted to piggyback what Kender said, which is these stakeholder meetings should have happened before the policy was ever crafted. Because what came out of that meeting is that the parents are interested in the report. They're interested in the actual information. And what I have learned through this process is this policy is too prescriptive. And because it's too prescriptive, the only thing that matches is iReady. And if we are interested in giving parents information, we also need to make them aware that for grades 4 through 6, iReady is not a state-approved diagnostic assessment. And so we have designed a policy that only iReady meets, and it's not necessarily something the state is telling us is an approved diagnostic. The only other thing that I want to mention is that there is now a class action lawsuit against the company that owns iReady. It is all about what the company is doing with the data that it collects from all of the students that use its products. And the claim is that the company is collecting all this data on our students and selling it. And so if parents, don't know that, they're not consenting to it. And so again, I am extremely concerned about some of the implications. The more I read about iReady, the more I get concerned. And so again, I just go back to the stakeholder meetings were very informative, and there was a lot of good discussion, and that should have taken place before this policy was created.
Thank you very much. Julie.
And I'm glad Brad went in front of me, because I was going to bring up the fact that there is now a class action lawsuit against the company that owns and manages iReady. And I think that this is very concerning, especially when we get into some of these AI types of programs. When we had All Here a couple years ago, my main concern at a board meeting was, where is this data going to go that this company has, and now there's a lawsuit, and there's superintendents who have been fired for having All Here in their district because the information, that company went out of business, and that information is out there with other companies now. The same thing is happening is, it worries me when we use these programs without real clear research and what is going to be the after effect for our students and families with this information that is getting out there. I don't know why we couldn't do something like a Dibble score and then have like a chart of, if your child's in the 5th grade, they should be reading at this level. That is a simple score based on if the child is reading and what that is. And it's a person with the child reading a text. It isn't a kid just hitting a button and going through it. And if they're tired that day, they just skip around or they don't do anything. Because once they fall back, it's hard. They have to work all the way through those grade levels to move back up. It's easy to fall back and it's hard to move forward. So I think that as a district and as a board, I think we have to be ethically responsible on what the decisions that we're making and the impact that it could be having on our students and families and their personal information and data.
Thank you. Yeah, Kareem.
I'll just wrap this up by saying that I shared at the community engagement meetings, and I still hold this to be true even after your further explanation, that I think that the spirit of this policy that I voted for was to increase awareness for parents. It wasn't about the assessment tool as much as it was about another tool to give parents the opportunity to say, hey, I saw that my son or daughter is listed as not on grade level. What can I do? I also want to say that I don't want to, I want it to be as simple as possible, but again, invite conversation, not in lieu of the teacher. I think that this is just another way for parents to know. And so I'm open, and I also encourage them to meet again, because if we find that iReady is not working, I think the parent piece is super significant, and glad that we're being able to do that. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Dr. Smith. Thank you to the staff and the team. And thank you to everybody that showed up, because it was really a powerful and powerful piece. But the other piece that was significant that I don't want to have missed is every school's not distributing report cards. So we need to figure out, while we have this grading policy that is about engagement, another piece is that everybody's not getting a report card. And so I confirmed with former board member Weinberg, and she said that this is actually applicable to her. She said we can call her if we need to, but that is a problem, because we have the policy, we're arguing about the policy and what it should be, but the tool that is being added to the report cards are not even going to get to the parents. So Jeremy, I know that you have a percentage number of schools that are giving out report cards, or they're not giving. I don't even know if you have that, but that's what I want to charge the administration with, is ensuring that parents get report cards, because they're not all getting them. So, and what I mean is a physical report card. I'm not talking about access to it on Focus, because that was the purpose of the policy, is that everybody doesn't have simplistic access to Focus, so they may or may not be getting it. So we need to, and it also came up in the engagement sessions that if iReady has color coding, do we have, all of the schools have the ability to print out the color coding because of budget? So this policy, I think we're ready to go with it, but it also has shed light on other things that need to happen, which is distribution of report cards to every school. And if we can't distribute them, parents should be able to walk in there and get it printed out. So we need to figure that piece out.
Thank you. Rob, we got somebody online?
Yeah, this is Tori. Again, she's commented that, they've commented that I appreciate the info about iReady. I just don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, per verbally. And she also did, I guess she attended that
I got
these
it.
sessions.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just a little clock management for a second here. Anything else on grading from anybody? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay.
Just
Yes, go
one.
ahead.
With finding a way to make it mandatory for these parent-teacher conferences, and for these parents to, for the teachers to actually communicate with the parents about the child, and not make it an option for them to do it because they don't have the information available.
Thank you. Would you mind repeating the last thing you said for a second? I was distracted by something on my phone, and I want to make sure that I heard you correctly. I apologize.
So basically making sure that we're holding the teachers accountable as far as actually relaying the information, because if we're going to put on report cards, see teacher,
Yeah.
if you want additional information. So actually hold them accountable for that. Even if they don't have the information available, still
Yeah.
meet with their parent and
Yeah.
discuss whatever it is that you see within the classroom, so that way that parent knows, like, okay, this is what my child is, and this is what I actually need to work on, and we can work on this together.
Got it. Thank you. And I think that my hope is that it can be a team effort, so that the teacher can help, the videos will help, that all of those things together can start to make a difference as a team. Yes, please.
We have all the notes from the meeting. So the things that came up that the parents were concerned about having conferences outside of the time that they normally, when can they meet with teachers? We're going to be talking to principals about all those things. Who's printing report cards, who's not? We need to print them. We need to color copy. So they will get all of those conversations from us, so that we move forward with the things that came out in that committee
great.
meeting.
That's great. So just to do a little clock management for a second, it is 10:55, and I do apologize. I have to leave a little bit early this morning for a funeral. I am fine. We've cracked about half the agenda. We have half to go. I'm fine if we'll have a quorum with two. Kareem and Carrie, would you like to continue on until 11?
I'm open, it doesn't matter.
Great, so let's do that. I think it'll keep us from getting a backlog. So I'm going to excuse myself in 5 minutes, but the meeting will continue until 11:30, and we can vote recommendations out of here with a quorum of 2 board members. So let's just keep getting as much done as we can in the time that we have, starting with personnel files. I think our bylaw says that. I think our bylaws say, I might be misremembering this, that if a chair leaves, the next most senior board member becomes chair for the rest of the meeting. So I'm just going to ask Kareem if you would do that when I step out. Thank you. Okay. So everybody, we're going to keep going. If you want to chat, you're welcome to, but please do it outside this room, because we're going to keep moving forward.
Okay, thanks. This relates to personnel files. This is a part of our 3-year annual review of all policies, so no particular reason this policy is coming, except that we annually or triannually review policies. Also, the recommendations, there's no substantive changes in terms of how the district would be handling personnel files. The one point of emphasis, I think, that we tried to add, because I think employees frequently do not understand that personnel files are part of the Ohio Public Records Act. They can be requested, and really most aspects of a personnel file. So employment docs, reviews, emails, so I wanted to emphasize that. One thing we do when we get a request for a personnel file is we notify the employee. We get requests for all manner of folks, so want to make sure that the employee is aware of that. Some information can be redacted: social security numbers, dates of birth, home address, minor children's names, if there's any kind of financial, like a direct deposit to your bank number and things like that. But beyond that, personnel files are public records, and so just want to emphasize that and make sure folks know. With that, welcome any questions that the committee has about the policy.
Sounds good. Carrie, do you have any questions about that? I do have a question, just an inquiry. So that personnel records, meaning what? That you verifying employment, like we can't disclose, like, hey, this person is on FMLA, or this person is.
Some docs are confidential, FMLA documents, ADA documents, sometimes workers' comp, because there's an overlay there of health information.
Okay.
So if there is a specific law or rule that prevents, legally prevents us from turning it over, we would have the ability to not turn that over. But, evaluation docs. I mean, I think some folks are sometimes surprised that their evaluation in a private employer, that's generally a very confidential kind of file. But in a public entity like CPS, it's an open record, so.
Okay. But we do notify the employee that
We
they
do,
get.
we send an email, unless we get something specific from, like in a subpoena case, sometimes the subpoena will say, you may not notify the target of this subpoena. Though that's very rare, but occasionally we get that. Normally, we just send an email to say, that your personnel file's been requested.
Any other questions? All right.
Move forward?
Yep, let's move this forward.
Consent agenda?
Yep.
Thanks.
Next, we've got policy 8330, student records.
Yeah, this is coming back to the committee. We discussed this in March. It was briefly introduced at the full board meeting that was held is that at Covedale? And no changes since then, but welcome any further feedback that the committee has on the student records policy.
Board Member Armbruster. It's okay. What were the significant changes? Can you summarize it?
We emphasized, nothing new in terms of policy. We made one change, bottom of the first page, only records mandated by law. That was an update, yeah. And then we highlighted again the district's directory information policy. That's something the board has a choice on, identifying what parts of a student's record are considered directory information, and the importance of that being that rather than a parent affirmatively saying, yes, you can release this record for directory information, name, grade, school, et cetera, the kinds of information you would find in like a student directory, it's an opt-out. So the assumption is they're notified every year, back to school packet, this is what the board considers directory information. Parents have an opportunity to send something in to say, please opt my child out, but otherwise they're assumed to be allowing us to share those categories of information.
Okay, anything? Anyone have any questions about that? Brad?
I just want to point out that this district needs to consider this policy very carefully, especially when it comes to the different types of ed tech that we use in this district. Because again, we're starting to see that we may not necessarily know what these companies are doing with all of the information they're collecting about our students.
Good point. This is inclusive of vendors getting access to our information as well? Is there a way to prevent that?
Sorry. The only way to prevent that would be to change the directory information. It's a kind of all or nothing. You can't pick and choose, which requesters we would be willing to give the information to.
Okay, we couldn't specify, I guess we couldn't specify vendors do not get it, or, no?
Not really.
Okay. Well, Rooster, what are your thoughts?
I guess I'm confused by that. So my understanding is the directory information is part of, like, essentially any group could come to the district and say, I want the directory information for Sands Montessori. Like literally any group.
I mean, the most common requests we get are from charter schools who want to know directory information for our families for marketing purposes.
Right. But like, literally, like, I'm trying to think of an example that's not completely off the, like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts can come and just say, like, I want all your students' names and all the information that's
Unless
in the directory.
the families opted out, and so when
Right.
in our student information we have a flag.
Yeah.
For families who have opted
So
out.
like I opted out of the military recruiters when I just filled out my kids' information yesterday to transfer schools.
So that would be flagged in.
Okay.
Yes, and
But
so
everywhere else
Yeah.
has access to
I
that
mean,
full.
10 years of doing this, or 15 years, the most common request we get is from.
No, I understand in practice what's happening, but in theory, what could happen is what I guess.
Correct.
Okay.
It's hard because I mean, and the district has gone both ways. We 10 years ago had a very limited directory information policy. And it was great for us because anytime anybody was requesting, the response was, this is not directory information, we cannot turn this over. The downside is there are partners in every school who very much appreciate to have, and there's this, they would like to know how to reach out to families. We want them to reach out to families in some cases. But yeah, it is not something where we can pick and choose who gets the information.
So I'm a little confused because the third line down says directory information shall not be provided to any organization for profit-making purposes. If a vendor is contacting us, that's clearly potentially a profit-making and/or.
Charter schools are that too.
I was gonna say, and it's the same for the charters.
Statute, it's been essentially overridden by court law.
So legally, we are required to turn the directory information over.
Right.
So,
I mean, we were the one who filed the case to try to argue. We took a case that charter schools had requested the information. We used the language that said can't be turned over for profit making. It's our district is
listed there. I guess I'm just conflicted with respect, and I did see you, Superintendent Murphy, I'm sorry. It says here on the first page, it says, protecting this information is essential to maintaining the trust of students, parents, and the community, and to ensuring compliance with legal requirements, including the FERPA and other federal and state laws. That's in blue, that's what you're proposing. Yet, if we are legally required to turn over information that is a potential violation of FERPA.
Let me be clear.
Okay.
Student information, this policy applies to the whole world of student information. IEPs, student discipline, all of that information is absolutely private. It's absolutely, all of the FERPA protections would never be turned over. We need a release from the parent.
Student records.
Student records is a broad category. Directory information, these categories here, a narrow set of what student records are. And this is what our board has designated as directory information. But in terms of student records, which is what this policy applies, I mean, all the information that we get about students, everything in focus, grades, attendance, all of that, absolutely protected, absolutely covered by this policy.
But if someone with like a convicted sexual offense requests our students' information, we have to give it to them?
Directory information.
Directory.
Correct. No, that's what I'm saying. What?
So wouldn't it just be prudent for us to say, we're gonna have an opt-in versus an opt-out, so that parents are aware? Because right now, we have an opt-in, so you have to exclude yourself. Why wouldn't we just say, it's on a case-by-case basis, you are automatically opted out?
Again, we can and have in the past.
I
Just to put out some of what the feedback we got during that time is schools had a very difficult time. A school wants to create a student directory, right? They want to have a list that parents can contact each other and see who's in your kid's class and all of that. Now you have to use an opt-in situation. And if a family doesn't get the opt-in back in, they cannot be in that student directory. So that's the downside is you try to create a student directory for your school, or the PTO does, or whatever. They're now relying on families to come and say, yes, I affirmatively am giving you this permission.
So if they opt in to a student directory for the school though, that is then now public information?
No, I'm sorry, excuse me. Well, it depends on how public the PTO makes the directory, right?
No, I understand. So I guess my question is,
I don't have to give that to everyone else.
okay, if the school itself creates a directory,
then it would need individual permission from a family.
Correct.
To release my name, address, kid's grade.
yes.
To the PTO for the purpose of making
Okay,
the student
so that could
We would not
be,
giving it to
okay.
charter schools or.
Okay, can we table this? Because I feel like I've got a lot. I've got a lot. And I don't think I'm gonna get it done in 20 minutes.
So can I give you one more example?
Yeah, please.
So we recently sent out.
That's all I was gonna say.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So for the purpose of our marketing, these same rules apply to charter schools. And for the purpose of our marketing, we recently sent out a request to all the charter schools in the community to say, send us your directory information. There were, I don't know, there's about 15, these are not exact numbers, about 5 sent us back their student directory information same day, next day, same week, because they have the same policy we do, identifying these categories as directory information. They knew they had to turn it over. About the other 5 or 10, to various, in various times to respond, said, we don't have, our directory information policy does not identify any of these categories, and we're not responding. I asked them then to follow up to show me in their directory information policy. I don't know if they wrote it the same day, but we got back from them their directory information, and they wouldn't respond. So those are the two. Even charter schools are kind of taking both sides of this.
I mean, we can absolutely table it. I don't have a problem with the directory information per se. I do foresee that this is a problem for future AI. You know, I do want us to be respectful of that. However, I just think vendors, people that solicit us should not. And then my only other issue is, can't we make it the reverse, where you, instead of you having to opt out, you are maybe opting in? But, you know, we can discuss it, we can table it, for, you're wanting to table it for what?
I just feel like this is a bigger conversation than I thought it was, and I think maybe Ben should be here. I feel like
There are two sides to the discussion.
I feel like I just need a little bit of time to process it.
That's fine. I think this is probably gonna go to the full board, and we're probably gonna take it out of consent to talk about it. I would imagine, but we can table this for next meeting. Unless, does anyone else have any questions about this? Concerns, questions, comments? Superintendent, I know I stole your thunder. Well, if we sent it to charters, and if we send it to 15, or let's say 20, and only 5 responded, is that a good return on investment? We're not getting their information. Yeah, but it's still only 25%. So I don't know if that's, you know, I don't know if you all think that that's beneficial. What, you all think we should leave it the same?
I think there's two sides. I mean, I really do. I think it is an important decision and warrants discussion.
Okay.
I suspect that if the board changes it, that would help us in some ways, but I would guess there'll be some feedback from schools as well to say, God, we love having a student director.
Yeah,
This makes it
I think that would be helpful for me, is like, we can talk about the fact that we're discussing it next time, and I would like to hear other opinions.
So do you want this for the full board, or to discuss, not a vote on? Or do you want
I'm
this
fine
to
either
go
way.
back to the
I just feel like I need more input on this. It just doesn't feel like something I can decide on in this moment with this amount of information. It just feels.
Do you want it to go to the full board for discussion only and then back to the committee, or do you want it to be for us to talk about next month as a committee?
I would defer to you on what you think is the best way.
Well,
forward.
let's just, I'll talk to Ben, but let's just put it on the agenda for next month, and then, you know, this is one that we're just reviewing from the list
There's no
of
rush.
reviews. Okay.
We could, yep.
Yeah, that's fine. Next, we have 8350, confidentiality.
Thanks. Again, 3-year review. No substantive changes here. This really, it's sort of the parallel policy to the student directory, or student information. So the student information policy talks about that student information shall be confidential. This policy really goes to employees' responsibility to keep that information confidential.
Okay.
I think so. I'm sorry. So again, no substantive changes, just I thought it was not very clearly written, and we tried to clarify again. This really goes to employees' responsibility to keep student information confidential.
Board Member Armbruster, any thoughts? Okay, I think this is good for consent. Oh, I'm sorry, Brad,
Here you go, Brad.
your thoughts?
This one's on now, so you don't have to switch back.
Yeah, we got 2 over here.
My question is, how does this policy, so it definitely identifies employees, but how does it actually apply to, say, Hamilton County Educational Services, which we're contract with?
It says contractors in here, correct? It says. Yeah. Employees, partners, contractors, and volunteers are all included.
Second full paragraph.
What do you mean? You don't want, are you saying, Brad, is your question about them having access to the information, or just keeping it within their entities?
but just making sure that contractors that we hire who have access to student information are also covered under this policy too.
Yep.
And it covers
And
them?
they are. Yeah, they're, under FERPA, the district is allowed to share information with folks who are essentially doing the job that would otherwise be done by a CPS employee. So when we have consultants or contractors in the school who are doing jobs that are education related, the policy applies with equal force to them.
I have a question, because that just sparked a question for me. How do we maintain the data that contractors have access to for them to not benefit from it? So when you speak about Hamilton County has access to other districts. How do we maintain the autonomy of our data so that they're not using our data to leverage with other districts?
So if we're giving access to any kind of an organization to data, in fact, even de-identified data, we have an agreement in place. Actually, Brian Sershin in our partner office vets the request, because we get requests for information from universities, researchers. He vets those, makes sure that it's something that is going to benefit the district. And then there's an agreement that goes in place, a FERPA compliant agreement that specifies exactly what they are allowed to use the data for, that they have to destroy it after, that it can't be used for any other purpose. We get those agreements a few times a year, and he works on those.
Okay. So our vendors, I don't think this, I'm just curious how we're protecting the data that we've given access to partners and vendors to, so that they're not selling our data.
Yeah,
They're not
every time we have an
benefiting.
agreement, like Focus, for example, that is a vendor that has access to our data because they're managing our student information system. There is a contract in place that specifies, it's FERPA compliant to make sure that they're not misusing the data in any way that they're not allowed.
And if and when they have a breach, how are we protected?
We would be notified. In some cases, we've had the obligation to then notify families of a breach. It's not different than like what a hospital does when they have a vendor breach. FERPA and HIPAA are actually written very similarly in terms of the requirements to maintain confidentiality.
Okay. Well, Ambrose, do you have any other? So this can go with the consent agenda too?
Jeremy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to
Jeremy.
say, one other quick note to add to that is for any individual non-CPS employee, so a contractor outside of the agreement with the organization directly, the individuals, when they get a CPS account, which enables them to access some of the data, they sign an individual NDA with us as well.
Okay, okay. Thank you. I think we're ready for consent. Mm-hmm. So the next thing on our agenda, although I do see community learning centers. Okay, well, here we go. This was a board member request calendar through June 26th. Community learning centers is on here for next. I don't exactly know. Does anyone know what Ben was intending with regard to community learning centers?
I think this is just the topics that we'll address over the next 2 meetings, maybe? Is that what?
Well, it says it was a board member request, and so I didn't know who requested this one or why.
I
It
think
might have even been
board
me, but I
member
don't
request and
remember.
other new business.
So we're gonna just table this for the May.
It says calendar through June of 26. So I think maybe, I don't know. I don't know.
That's what I thought.
Oh, okay, well, but he put the policies in there, so it made it sound like, it made it feel like we were discussing them. So, I don't know. Okay. Let's just put these three then, I
Well, the
have,
second one actually has edits in it. So what was the non-school organization? Did you guys want to talk through that one real quick? We can at least start the conversation about it.
Yep, that's coming back again, and an important policy been working on with the treasurer, internal auditor, our office. Updating and adding as we go along. There were a few comments, I think, in I'm not sure we discussed it last month, but I think the previous month that have been added. talking about crowdsourcing, making sure we make a cross-reference here to crowdsourcing. That's been done. So this is an evolving policy, again, an important one. No particular rush on getting this through, but welcome your comments or feedback on the policy.
We talked about this when I was on policy 2 years ago, and I think that, Treasurer Augustine, we just need to ensure that schools understand what this is, because I feel like I've always been conflicted, because I just feel like teachers do a lot. So when they get extra funds, when they get extra resources, to put limits on them feels unfair to me, having been in that situation. But I don't know if everybody is fully aware of what the official policies are.
So, yeah, I would say, I think it's actually really important that we get through this by the end of this school year, so that schools planning for next year's fundraising understand and are very clear about what fundraising looks like for both non-school organizations and whatever else fundraising occurs at a school level, and where that money goes and how it can be spent. Because to Dr. Moffat's point, it is very unclear.
So if I may.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. If I may, I think that is, as we work on the NSO policy, that I think was one of the biggest concerns, is creating something that can be easily crystal clear implemented. Old policy had a lot of words. I mean, we realized as we went through it, like it was almost impossible for us to stay in compliance in a lot of ways. And so, we're not here to set people up to fail. So yeah, part of it was creating kind of very bright lines that would be very obvious to folks. I think part of what legal counsel, internal audit, and I talked about was building out part of the procedure side of this. Is once we have the policy, is we need some very clear procedures, and some of the policy as it's written talks about having some consultation between the principal and the non-school organization before things get started, which I think is critical, so that everyone knows, kind of as you start down this path, who's going to do what, where the money's going to go, what that's going to mean, and so doing a little bit of work at the beginning can save a lot of, mistrust and angst at the end. So those are all things. I think the other thing I would just say briefly is we are very close to rolling out the procedures on the crowdfunding policy. I know we're kind of way behind on the procedures, but working on, rolling that out so it is ready for folks to hit the ground next school year.
So I had a couple questions. Does this apply to school foundations?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought that.
Yep.
I thought that. I wanted to clarify. Is there anything in here that maybe I missed seeing it, that the school foundation is to report, to give a fiscal reporting to the district?
So I think some of this comes to the procedure side. So there's kind of, if you look through the list, there's things that we're asking the school kind of foundations to do. There's kind of a list of those things we want them to follow. There's not a hard reporting in there. I know years ago there was a section in here that required the internal auditor to review all those. Problem is they're all separate 501c3s. They're separate organizations from us, and at some point, like, we don't want to take on them, right? There's a point of separate things. One of the concepts we've talked about, just to finish, is creating kind of a registration, because I think there's things we want to know, like we want to know who your officers are. We want to know what you're doing. I mean, we don't want to read your, IRS 990, but we want to create some sort of registration process that would have benefits to both sides. So district gets some benefits. We know who you are. I did a training with, I think it was the Secretary of State's office. I can't remember which corporate it is. And they kind of tried to scare us into, like, these people, are an affiliate of your district, so you got to kind of keep them on a tight leash. I think that's different when you're a small district that has one high school and one elementary school and one PTA. It's very different than than the CPS experience, but talking about a process where they get some benefits, you know, by submitting the information for us, and we get some benefits by getting some assurances from them that they're doing the same things.
So let me just clarify. I don't think that we should manage the school foundations at all. I don't think that that's our role, nor was that my intention. But I do think that, is there an awareness piece in here that they even need to have accountability of awareness to the district? I didn't see that part in here. So that's what I'm asking. If we know that a school has a foundation, and we've got lots of foundations, I mean, we've got some that are raising millions, but we also have some that are raising thousands. And so we don't know who they are. And they're also using the likeness of they're using the building, they're using the likeness of CPS, and they're using our staff and our students. And so to not have an accountability, even just a recognition, is problematic to me. So that should be in here somewhere, that they tell us that they exist, they're utilizing our buildings, and that they provide to us the same level of accountability that they would for the IRS. Not necessarily the bylaws, but at least some sort of reporting fiscally that they are benefiting our families and our kids. I know I've spoken to several organizations of schools that had a conflict because the school wanted to use the money for something that they didn't want them to use it for. I don't think we should get into that, but if we didn't even know that they existed, that's problematic, and I think that that should be our responsibility to do that. On the other part, and I just don't see it, that's why I asked, where is it? On section, it says participation by students in fundraising activities. I am a little concerned about that because it says participation by students is voluntary. It goes through and it talks about that. But when we have schools that do, like have Montessori experiences, we've gotten a lot of emails about those, how students can't participate because they didn't fundraise with the group. You know, if you've come in year 2 or 3, then you didn't have the same fundraising opportunities that the first year people did, but they're complaining that they benefited, that the students are benefiting, and they will have to pay a large amount of money to catch up. Does that, is that accounted for in the fundraising activities? It says here that participation is voluntary, but on some level, we're holding them accountable to the fundraising as a benefit. I think we need to address that because we've received multiple emails about that. I don't know how to address it. We've deferred it back to the schools, but when they start citing, you know, oh, well, this doesn't seem equitable, in a way, it's kind of touchy. So I would love for that to be addressed here on some level, even if I don't know how to do that, but I think that we should. The last thing I wanted to ask about was, it says here, funds that must be handled through the, and you crossed out raising activities, student activity fund. What is that on the last page? NSO fundraising activities permitted. It's the last part, and it says funds that must be handled through the student activities fund. What does that mean?
So student activity funds are district managed funds. It's Fund 300s, as we call them. And these are by law things that are required to run through the school district. Like athletic gate receipts are a good example. They are required by law to come into the district and be handled by the district. So for example, you know, if you go to a football game, the gate receipt is gonna be CPS funds that gets you into the game. It's deposited, it's managed by CPS staff. You know, it's reported in our books. You know, it's part of our financial reports. You know, your concessions, though, might be managed by the Alumni Foundation. And so the Alumni Foundation is going to run that concession stand, you know, whatever money they buy, you know, they're going to collect, they're going to manage, they're going to bank. And ideally, they're going to, at some point, take their proceeds of that and then, you know, use it for the benefit of the school.
It's trying to identify those few categories that have to go through the Fund 300. So
Yeah.
we have had situations where a school's putting on a musical presentation, a drama, and they say, you know, this would be great. The Arts Foundation that's associated with the school will handle all the ticketing. They can't. That ticket receipts have to go to the Fund 300. They can come and sell popcorn. There's other ways to fundraise around that event, but those few items are things that have to go through Fund 300.
Important question here.
Yep.
Does that apply to elementary, middle, high, all portions? What does that apply to? Because it's not clear here.
we can clarify. My
clarify.
understanding is it's K to 12.
Okay, that needs to be clarified. Because when you say CPS athletics, I mean, some schools don't get support from CPS athletics department, but like they are you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
that's a
that
good
just
point.
needs to be
They have a
clarified.
rec association that is
Correct.
actually running the sports. It's not
Yes.
that's a really good point.
And it's
I see what
also
you- yeah, like a
unclear.
like a CPS team sport is different.
Yeah.
Than a rec league
Yeah.
that also participates
Yes.
at CPS schools. Yes.
Correct, because we are using the facility, we're
Yes.
using the name, but we
really
aren't
good call out.
supported by CPS athletics.
And it says rentals and other facility fees related to the use of CPS facilities. So
Yes.
I think that is unclear because we've got people that rent our buildings pay to the building,
Right.
and where does that money go? It's not clear here, so that needs more
Yep.
flesh out.
I think the thing is like, but what it's saying is, those folks who rent our buildings, outside rent our buildings, that money has to go to the district. That money can't go to another third party, right? Like you can't. Like if you're renting the stadium on a Saturday, you can't pay that money to the alumni foundation. That money has to go to the district. It's one of the things that has to flow that way.
But can the alumni foundation, how do we usurp just the alumni
Can they
foundation?
can they sublease it? That's something we probably have to clarify.
I think you
right?
do need to clarify that part as well. So I think this is like, do you have any more questions?
Oh, I have lots.
Oh, okay, so we'll continue this discussion next month. 'Cause I
Yeah,
think that
those are
there's,
good notes.
There's some things in here that, I am not trying to run a foundation or, an NSO at all, but I do think that they have a level of accountability, especially when things come up. Because PTAs, we've got some PTAs that are doing robust things and they're raising like $20,000.
Right.
But the problem comes when the teacher says, hey, I want lanyards, and the PTO says, well, we're not doing that. We're
Or the
gonna
principal
do
says that.
books. Yeah, Brett.
Dan, we had a conversation previously about SGOs. And, obviously that we don't necessarily don't think we have all the IRS guidance and everything like that. My sort of question, and again, I don't think there's an answer to this, but if SGOs are something that CPS could use, how would it fall in this policy? Again, knowing that there are dangers to it, that possibly it could cost us funding, so just a thought.
Yeah, no, Brad's been our guy on this. He's given us all kinds of information. Stephanie's been looking up it as well. There are some public schools that have already started using them. Taylor has its own. Three Rivers District has its own SGO. I think the question is not how the Fed guidelines are gonna come out. It's whether the state then starts deducting our state foundation formula based on those amounts, so.
And define a SGO for people that don't know
Yeah,
the
it's a IRS deduction that can be given based on contributions to I don't know, SGO is school.
Scholarship giving
Scholarship,
organization,
yes,
yeah.
granting organization.
Scholarship granting organization,
That's
that's
right.
right, yeah.
So
So I think we put that here?
I think it's
Or-
probably a separate policy
Yeah.
that but the feedback about the policy is really helpful, so we will
Okay.
take that into consideration. I know there is, yeah.
I do think we should probably just table this for next month to
you just wanna
continue
submit your
next year.
questions?
That'd be great. And then the last one, high schools of choice, intra-district enrollment. Oh, wait. There's two here. And then community.
Yeah, I
learning
think
centers.
that's another bigger discussion, and maybe we invite board member Matt to the next meeting since she's on there too. As
Yeah,
a,
well, Ben probably knows what she wanted, but let's just table that one
Yep.
until, can you give us a heads up on what that meant for you?
no, I think, I think just as the corridor, like the feedback I've been getting on my grand tours, I don't know what board member Matt's discussion point is, but just as we're looking at enrollment across the district for the secondary education piece of how are we directing kids to make sure they're getting to the right places, the right programming, the right distance from their homes, things like that. Just reviewing the policy to make sure that we have the kids in the right places that will help benefit them. I just wanted to take a look at the policy. I'd never really seen it before, so I was hearing feedback from principals. I wanted to be able to take a look at it and see what we could do to make sure that enrollment made sense across the district.
Okay, so we'll table that for May. And then I do kind of remember about community learning centers, I had a thought, and this might have been mine, I'm not sure. But to me, we have wonderful community learning centers, which I absolutely support. But I think that we are excluding some people with regard to the cost in utilizing our buildings. And so I wanted to look at that and make sure that we are actually being a community learning center and that providing access to the community to utilize our buildings. And how do we do that with fidelity for nonprofits, for profits? I know we've got churches that use our buildings on Sundays, but seeing if we're actually being accessible as the policy states with regard to community learning centers, or do we need to add something in here? So we'll talk about that in May too. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Should we also have just with this, the fee listing?
Probably so. You mean for the discussion?
For facilities, yeah, again, when there's the discussion to have, what is it that you have documented?
Yeah.
Online that we're charging for an auditorium or a field?
Yeah, that would be helpful for May. Okay, do we have any hearing of the public, Rob? Oh, great. Anyone else have anything else for the good of the April Policy Committee meeting? Julie?
I just want to remind everyone that there is going to be a public education forum, and we will have some very knowledgeable speakers. One is Scarlett Bowder, and she's going to talk about all of the legislation that's coming down against public education. Policy Matters going to be talking about the impact of some of the tax issues that are roaming around the state. And then Dennis Willard is going to be talking about the impact to our budget around vouchers. But it will be free. It's from 5 to 6:30. It will be in the ILC, and it's open to the public and anybody your organizations, if you want to share it. And I have some flyers here, and we have it online, and I know a couple other organizations. This is not just a CFT event. All of the 8 urbans across the state are doing very similar town halls because everybody's budgets are being negatively impacted. So this is going to be chaired by Mike Guston, Superintendent Murphy, and CFT. So it will be on Wednesday, April 22nd. But I will tell you, it will be highly, highly informative. It is a very good use of your time, and everybody should try to attend because it's literally an attack on public education.
Is this being streamed anywhere?
I don't know.
So it may be streamed. It may, starts at 5. It starts at 5 p.m., 5 to 6:30. I do believe we're going to be able to stream it, and it is at the Board of Education on April the 22nd. So if you cannot make it in person, you at least may be able to watch it on our socials. You probably can't comment unless you're here, but definitely tune in.
We want people in person now.
Dr. Moffitt, we do have a comment. Thank you, Dr. Moffitt, for the accessibility piece for the learning centers. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Anyone else? All right, so I call our April Policy